So good morning everyone, and welcome to the Sunrise Safari. For those of you who don't know, my name is Jamie and I have Andrew, also known as the Aardvark, on camera with me for this morning's drive. And on Wendy is Steph and Brian, and they've set off to look for those lions that they were looking for yesterday afternoon on the Sunset Safari. So we have Tara and Jess in FC, and Eugene is always working on the technical side of things. And I hope you are all excited for what is proving to be quite an interesting sunrise safari already. This is one of my favorite things about being out in the bush, is that I certainly didn't expect, when I was on my way down through one of the most regularly used roads, to come across a breeding herd of buffalo. Now the block is very, very thick. I'm not sure how many we've got here. I would say probably well over 200, but that's a very sort of minimal guess. I'm sure there are more in there. There's lots and lots of noise coming from this area. You can hear them crashing through and feeding, but there's plenty of them around. And it is a rather chilly start to this morning. That's why they've all been sort of cuddled down and sleeping together. It's 13 degrees centigrade, which is 56 degrees Fahrenheit for those of you in that part of the world. So still feeling the effects of winter, even though we are sort of starting to see the first signs of spring. The mornings are still just that little bit chilly. I'm still feeling it a bit, still wrapped up in plenty of layers. But what a cool way to start the morning with this large herd of buffalo. It's been a while since I've seen them. And when we started out the show, there was a shot of that female with a collar. Now, apparently she has been seen before. I'm very curious to know who has collared her and what they are studying about her. I'm sure it's to do with herd movements, especially now that it's a very, very dry season. There will be plenty of researchers curious to see how that all works. So, interesting morning ahead of us. We are a live safari, so we are right now in Djuma, in the Sabi Sands, looking at this breeding herd of buffalo. And it's also an interactive safari. So if you have any questions or any comments that you'd like to make, you can do so on #SafariLive on Twitter, or you can email them through to questions@wildearth.tv. And for now, we're going to spend some time watching what these buffalo are up to. Very, very cool sighting. You can see a lot of them, when we first drove up, were still very much asleep. Some of them have got up and they've started ruminating. You can see that regular movement of the jaw, and just chewing on the cud. I'm still trying to get an idea of numbers. There's a lot of these very, very big bulls, like the one at the back there. You can see his very solid horn base, also known as the boss. It's fairly dented and rumpled from years of fighting. And then a whole mixture of the various females and ages. Got a female there with the sort of the hair between the horns, much less solid horn base. To start the morning. So we're just having a look at the various buffalo that are part of this herd. There are so many of them, and just off to the right here is that female that I was talking about with the collar on her. There you can see that would be a radio transmitter, and it would allow people to keep track of their movements. An ex-ranger from Tasmania, welcome to the Sunrise Safari. As always, it's great to have you on board with us. And you would like to know how it would be that they would get that collar on her. And the answer would be probably with well, definitely they would have to dart her and put her under anesthetic. and they'll use a drug known as M99 or one of those derivatives, and it would have been done by a professional vet. Those are the only people who can do that sort of darting, and it would either have been done from a vehicle or from a helicopter, probably most likely from a vehicle. And the way that they would choose which animal to dart, they would not pick up one of the older males. They'd actually pick one of the older females who would be quite high up in the sort of social hierarchy of a buffalo herd, and one of the ones that's most likely to stay with the herd at all times. And that collar is probably fitted both with the ability to track via radio signals, and it also probably has a GPS transmitter that will transmit maybe once or twice a day the exact GPS location of this herd. And I haven't seen any of the others with it, but that is how they would do it. They'd have to then probably just chase away the rest of the herd, because buffalo, in my experience, I have been on a couple of buffalo darts, they do tend to be very, very curious. As soon as something happens, they all come to have a look. So you'd have to chase them away as far as is safe for the vets to come and work, and then they come and they clip it on, and it's usually something that's done very, very fast. And the animals that are lucky enough to get darted and get the collar, most often they will also get a free tick treatment. So just because the vets do have them there and sedated, they will spray some really heavy duty pest repellent on them and treat any of their wounds, because obviously you want the animal that's carrying an expensive piece of equipment to be as healthy as possible. So although it is a process that might be a little bit confusing for the animal, they do actually get some benefit out of it. And then obviously with all of the research that comes out of it, it can be very, very beneficial. And there we can just see the first rays of the sun peeking through. And I'm very, very glad to see the sun after yesterday and the day before was rather cloudy days. I'm hoping it's going to warm up a little bit. I'm always very strongly in favor of being too hot over being too cold. And a lot more of them are standing now and sort of just casually staring at us and chewing in that motion that we saw a little bit earlier, so that sort of side to side jaw motion. And Carol would like to know why they are doing that and what it is they're doing. So because they are ruminants, like your normal domestic cows, they have a series of 4 stomachs. So they will consume the grass, put it into the first stomach, and that will form it into a nice bolus or a ball, and that comes back up through the esophagus into the mouth, and then they chew it again when they have a moment. So they eat quite a lot of grass, and they do so fairly rapidly, especially whilst on the move. But then when they do have a moment like this, where they are stationary and not really up to too much, then they will bring it up and start to chew it again. And that sideways motion, because of the way that their molars are structured, is kind of the best way of really making sure they break down that grass and just break it down as far as they can before the rest of the digestive process happens. And when it does come out the other side, it is very, very finely digested, much more finely digested than, say, something of a zebra or an elephant that doesn't have quite the same efficient digestive system. So they are ruminants in much the same way cows and other antelope are. There you go, you can see one there just casually chewing side to side. Oh no, don't stop chewing. You can carry on, please. We wanted to see you do it. Here we go. That sort of circular motion of the lower jaw. So, whilst that one finishes up that particular cud, if we just move slightly to the left, there we've got a sort of sub-adult who is about maybe just under a year old. And typically, buffalo do not have an exact set breeding season in the same way something like impala do. So they won't give birth all at once, but there will be a very, very strong favorable peak for the rainy season. So anywhere from November till about March will be the time that they start to drop their calves. I've never seen, I would like to say I've never seen a young baby born in the middle of the dry season, in the middle of winter. I would never say never. There are a couple, I did see earlier, I can't see one now, but there are a couple of fairly young calves, but even the youngest I would say is about 4 months or 5 months old. So still that very high peak in the rainy season, which makes sense because that is your best time for resources. And this little one here is demonstrating a little bit of the phlegm and grimace. It was a rather lazy effort, but I think that's just because it's lying down. Could be a young male actually, but one of the buffalo just to the left there is urinated, and then that buffalo responded by pulling up its top lip and scrunching up its face and just drawing that scent right into the top of the mouth. And they always look very funny when they do that, but it does serve a very important purpose. I think that one might think about doing it as well. No, not as interesting a smell. And that could be because it's just female urine. It's obviously not too interesting to this particular female. But that face that they pull, that phlegm and grimace, does serve a very important purpose. And that's actually one of the prettiest female buffaloes I think I've seen in a while. Very, very good looking girl. She's got perfect horns, not looking too shabby. Oh, it's a young male. That explains why it went to scent mark. Got to look a little bit closer. And breeding herds of buffalo do tend to be very, very curious creatures. They do like to stand and watch you and try and decide what you mean to them and what kind of effect you're going to have on their lives. Here we go, we've got another perfect example of the phlegm and grimace. Just testing the air. It always does look like such a funny face, but it's such a good way of pulling that scent into an organ that is highly, highly specialized. Hello, big boy. Nice big old bull. And he stood and looked at us for a long time before he decided to move a little bit further forward towards us. And I think now he's going to veer off to the side, just making sure that we're not any kind of threat. And I do love buffalo herds because there's always different individuals to look at, and when you've got such a nice age selection, it's really, really useful. Now this old bull, it's difficult to see the condition of his teeth, but I would say is somewhere in the region of over 8 years old. He's very, very big and solid. He's got a nice big solid boss at the top of the horns. And as throughout his life he goes through that constant chewing motion. Anna Marie, you are correct, it will grind down his teeth, and it's probably one of the best ways of trying to get an age on buffalo is just to have a look at the condition of their teeth. They do start to get worn down and slightly cracked, but interestingly not in the same way that elephants do. Now elephants are largely, I'm just going to shift so we can have a look at that one who's having a scratch over there. Now elephants need to eat far more than buffalo do, proportionate to their body size, and that is just because of their digestive system. And that's why their teeth wear down far faster than something like a buffalo's does. one's had a nice scratch on that tree. It's a great way of ridding yourself of all kinds of ticks and parasites, and buffalo do carry quite a few of those. But he's obviously feeling better now. Hey, big boy. And I do love the way they sort of half look at you as they go past, and really lumbering walk. They don't really have anywhere in particular they need to be. It's just a matter of walking to the next food spot. And we've got a whole load of them in front of us now, just standing in front of the car, and they are chewing and ruminating, as we were talking about before, and also just standing staring at us. They can't quite decide what to make of us. And Lucy, you've actually picked up on the fact that the jaw in some of them moves one way and then the other way in others. So they kind of rotate in different directions. Now, I don't know if I think it's more likely that they probably just rotate between the two. So they either move from left to right or right to left, depending on their mood. I don't think that specific individuals favor one chewing motion over the other. But I'm not sure, because that's actually the first time anybody has pointed that out as an observation to me. So very, very interesting. From now on, I will be looking at the way that they chew. I think they probably just favor one side of the mouth and then the other side, just to keep the wearing down of the teeth fairly even. You can hear them grunting and groaning. Buffalo breeding herds do make quite a lot of noise, and that, of course, as always, attracts lions to the area. So I'm wondering if there aren't any lion prides around following behind. It's always a good opportunity. I think somebody just got in another buffalo's space there. Just a little bit of conflict. And that's very, very common, those mooing sounds in buffalo breeding herds. They just get in each other's way, and they're slightly irritable creatures at the best of times. But obviously most irritable would be the adult bulls, or the Duggar boys as they're known, especially when they're on their own. But we've got quite a collection of them in this particular herd. You can see them pushing and shoving each other. They do very much get into each other's space. But Tom, you would like to know if we could sort of estimate the ratio of adult bulls to adult cows in a herd like this. And thinking about it, it's probably somewhere in the region, and it obviously will vary from herd to herd, but probably somewhere in the region of 25% to 75%. So 25% large males, maybe even as low as 20% large males, and then the rest of them will be not just adult cows, but also sub-adults and calves. So that would be a sort of very rough estimation from my point, and it obviously will vary depending on the herd and where they are. And what will often happen is some of the big sort of bachelor herds that we see of Duggar boys will, when a herd like this moves through the area, they might link up with them for a while and stay with them and then decide to move on. So it's a system that is constantly in flux, but generally, as with most animals, they tend to have quite a large skew in terms of females versus males. So guys, we were talking a little bit about the fact that buffalo herds like this often bring lion prides to the area, especially when they make those mooing sounds. And I'm sure you have been wondering what Steph has been up to. And in fact, he has found a pride of lions on a buffalo kill. So we're going to send you back across to Steph. I'm probably going to head out on my way and see what else I can find, and I will catch up with you all a little bit later.
Hello everybody, and I thought that it would be a good thing to start on what we left off with last night as an indication of how easily even a person with 16 years experience in the bush can be wrong. This was the last view, or one of the last views we had last night. We were on a vulture last night. This is a hooded vulture, and I remember distinctly telling everyone that there wasn't a possibility for there to be anything in the area because there was only one vulture, and that wasn't leading us to any sign. And have a look how wrong I can be. And here we have a pride of lion lying on a dead buffalo, and they've been here for at least 24 hours, lying without anybody even knowing what's going on. That buffalo carcass is being fed on by the Nkuhuma Pride. They've managed to sneak into Djuma somehow, kill a buffalo right near where we stay without anybody realizing it, and stay hidden for a full day. Can you believe it? There's Junior, very content cat. He's been watching the sunrise this morning, and he's been watching the arrival of vultures in ones and twos to this position. You can see his fat belly there on the left hand side. Evident those huge forearms of his. It does some action around the carcass there. So what's happening over there is, as the meat is starting to finish, the choicest pieces, they're starting to wrestle for those prime spots around the carcass. You can still hear the growling happening. You can see her force of her growls, shaking her head. Now, it's not an angry thing, that they're just fighting for food. They're not angry with one another. It's very typical of lions to squabble over a carcass. You can see Junior's come to have a look. Now that noise carries quite far, and there's no presence of the Matimbas here. It's just Junior and the rest of the pride. And we have some flat kitty cats that are it's a humbling experience to be proven wrong so many times. I quite enjoyed yesterday. It was just one of those days where everything that I would have done and said yesterday would have been proved wrong. So it's no wonder that we made a bold claim that because there's just one vulture, there was no lion kill, when it's evident that there was everything except that going on. And you can see we've got a lioness lying in front of us in the sand. She moved off of the carcass probably about 5 or 10 minutes ago to come and lie down on the cooler sand. A very full belly. Now, the meat that they eat generates quite a lot of metabolic heat, and they can get quite warm. And I've no doubt that she came to lie down on the sand because it's a bit cooler than the grass which she was lying. And also provides for a nice pillow. Oh, where is she going now? The last couple of minutes we've been hearing roars coming from further south of here. Definitely 2 male lions. I can only presume that it's the 2 Matimbas are lying up or on the move from further south, and not too far, probably about 500 or 600 meters. And that little squabble that you just witnessed now, that definitely would have been within hearing range of those 2 males. And if they're hungry, if they're not lying on a kill of their own, there's every chance that they'll come and join in the feast. 2 experienced lions like that definitely won't pass up on the opportunity for a free breakfast. Big yawn. And this pride is proving itself to be quite the buffalo hunters. I must be honest, we've seen them on 4 buffalo carcasses, I think. 4 buffalo carcasses, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but within the last 4 or 5 weeks, they've killed 4 or 5 buffalo. And it's just a measure of how lions adapt to the most dominant or the most prevalent prey species in an area. Lions generally have a prey range between 50 and 250 kilograms, which is wildebeest and zebra and kudu range. But in areas where those numbers of those game is quite low, they will hunt whatever the most dominant prey source is in that area. In this area, old male buffalo, they're just plenty. There seems to be a buffalo around every corner here. In places like the Chobe National Park, elephant have even become quite adept, or lion have even become quite adept elephant killers. But generally not normal. And buffalo, big, fast, angry, full of horns, can kick, can stomp on a lion. Definitely a very dangerous quarry to pursue. But these guys have obviously figured out the trick. I don't see signs of much of a fight having been put up by the buffalo, so I can only surmise that it happened pretty similar to that kill that we filmed all those weeks back, where they chased the buffalo into this area, anchoring it. One of the lions would have jumped onto it and anchored it, and then basically they just would have worn it down to a point where it would have been lying now where you see it. They don't look like they've moved it very far. I can see some tummy contents behind the carcass, so they haven't dragged it anywhere. This is where it all went down. Probably the night before last was, if I were to guess at the state of this particular kill. And literally just 2 or 3 days after they managed to finish that buffalo carcass on Arathusa. Time of plenty this year for lions. They definitely have their best time of the year now, starting from about July all the way through to November, beginning of December. Lions have their best time of the year. It's when meat is readily available and hunting is at its best for them. As summer progresses, when all the other animals start getting healthier and start to spread out into the bush, lions find it very difficult to get along. They start hunting over massive distances, and to find prey is hard because the bush is very thick. The prey is sparse. It's definitely not concentrated around watering points or the last little bits of good feeding areas around. It's dispersed into the bush. And animals are all healthy. They're fit, they're alert, they're not having their heads in bushes for most of the day. They've got time to sit and to ruminate and to watch their surroundings. And so you find that by January, February, lions are definitely in their worst condition through the year. So something that I haven't touched on right now is the fact that this is the first time we're seeing the Nkuhumas since they had their encounter with the Birmingham boys a few days ago. And Ramey and Dr. Debbie have asked, can I see any noticeable signs of a struggle or a fight? And I can happily say that Junior is in tip-top condition. There doesn't seem to be anything wrong with him. And none of the other lionesses from the position that I'm in right now are carrying any noticeable scars. Now, I am seeing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 females and a male. As far as I know, this pride was 6 females and a male. But it would be interesting. So I can definitely see 5 females, 6 females. So I've got 6 females and a male. Now, for those of you who are very familiar with this Nkuhuma Pride, it would be interesting to hear what your thoughts are on whether or not the lioness that was killed by the Birmingham boys on Torchwood was one of the Nkuhumas, as was initially thought.
Yes!
Go, quick, quick, quick. Hi guys, sorry to interrupt you like that, but we do have a honey badger. I'm going to try and stay with it. It's my first honey badger. We do say a big apology for that, but it's totally worth it just to be able to see this little guy. I'm going to try and stay with it. Badger cub, and watching that entire process was so cool. I'm gonna just loop around, see if maybe we can get one last glimpse of him, but it was totally worth it just to be able to see an animal that we hardly ever see. So that was really cool. So exciting, and he was such a surprise. They are such ferociously brave little animals. They are famous for I think he might have disappeared off. Now the really cool thing about this is when I was driving up and down this road yesterday with Brian, I noticed a lot of honey badger tracks up and down the road. And I didn't stop to point them out because they had been sort of driven over, but I could tell that there was definitely one living in this area. So that's really cool because now we know that there is at least one of them denning somewhere here, and he will be heading back now to disappear off into his burrow, which will be something like an old aardvark hole that he's just excavated. And I think he's disappeared off into this block. It is very thick, and I'm not going to go crashing through after him, but just so totally worth it to show him to you guys. Really awesome, ferocious little animals, and they've got that incredibly loose skin that whenever they are attacked, they're actually almost able to turn themselves right around and bite and attack with those ferocious little teeth and those sharp claws. And they've got the most amazing sort of symbiotic relationship with the various birds in this area. Obviously the most important being the honey guide, because the honey guide is one of the few that's able to digest beeswax. So they will lead the honey badger to a bee's hive or a wasp's nest. The honey badger will break it open. They're fairly impervious to the stings, and then the honey guide gets to consume the wax that's around it. Really awesome little animals. So we do apologize for that rather sudden transition, but so worth it to be able to show you even the briefest glimpse of an animal that I've hardly ever seen. in the wild, and certainly this is my first time seeing one here on Djuma. But now we know we need to be on this road early in the morning, or just as it starts to get cool, especially as it is still nice and cool. It is still sort of the end of winter, so we've got a far better chance of seeing him. Awesome stuff. What a good way to start the morning. That was very, very cool. I've just got the sun starting to peek out over the termite mounds. And it is so nice to see the sun starting to peek over the top of that termite mound. As I said, I did participate in that sort of release of or the raising of and then subsequent release of a wild honey badger cub. And it was awesome to see. He was taken on regular walks and the instinct just kicked in. He learned to forage on his own, catch birds on his own, and even after he was released, he'd still sort of return every now and again to say hello. But he was not treated as a pet in any way. He was just sent back to the wild where he belonged. So really cool sighting. Again, apologies for the quick sort of cut across to us, and I'm sure you'd like to get back to Steph while I attempt to refine the road, because I wasn't really paying attention to what direction I was going in. So I'm going to send you back across to Steph, and I will catch up with you a little bit later.
Well, luckily for the honey badger that popped out of nowhere, and well done on seeing that. That's definitely a nice surprise to crash. Sorry about the crash. You know, it happens when something exciting like that comes onto the screen. We have to show you. And it gave us the opportunity to move into a slightly better position so that we can show you what it looks like closer to the carcass. And now all the lions are back feeding again. They're all sort of joined in the feast. Junior got up and pulled the carcass over, and he's stuck his face into the meat that lies between the ribs and the skin. We were busy discussing, as you left us in such a hurry, we were busy discussing, is the lioness that was killed by the Birmingham boys one of the lionesses of this pride? Now, myself and Brian were having a chat about the dynamics of this pride, and he said that the pride was at a time numbering 11 individuals and has been whittled down over the years. So it's quite possible that the lioness was from this pride, but I do know that there are a few of you out there that definitely have the history of this pride well documented, and it would be nice to hear from you on what your thoughts are. There are definitely 6 lioness here and 1 male. My gut feel is telling me that it probably then wasn't one of the lionesses from this particular pride. But let's wait to hear what you say. You're welcome to send through any of your feedback on Twitter at the hashtag Safari Live, or you can email questions@wildearth.tv. And we'll try as hard as we can to get as many questions answered while we're sitting around this buffalo. I'm very glad we moved the car. We're out of a downwind position, and so myself and Brian can start breathing with our mouths open again. It was a smelly affair where we were parked last. So Ross, Michelle, Brenda and Mike have expressed a bit of concern over the lioness with the amber eyes, and is she with the pride at the moment? That's the one that we think was killed by the Birminghams. From where I'm sitting at the moment, it's going to be difficult to see, but we'll definitely keep an eye open. Absolutely. As soon as we've got confirmation on whether or not she's here, we'll pass the news on. It's not uncommon for lion numbers to fluctuate, adult lion numbers to fluctuate. Lions kill one another quite often. It looks like there's a scuffle going to break out here soon. The one lioness wants to eat still. Let's have a look. We can see 2 eyes now of the lionesses on the left hand side. I still don't see any noticeable scarring. And the first cat that I looked at when I moved in here today was Junior. He would have borne the brunt of any attack that the Birminghams had directly on this pride. And the fact that he hasn't been chased off or chased out says to me that they didn't really catch him. Prominent bite marks across the lumbar region of the spine. See, the one lioness, she does have a bit of a scar. The one lying down on the left hand side, but it's an old wound. So bites to the lumbar region of the spine, which is just above the hips, and to the top of the head are common killing bites in lions. That's where lions bite one another to inflict the greatest injury. She's lying down on her breakfast. Too exhausted to move, too desperate not to lose her claim on that particular piece of meat. And still following on the note of lion numbers fluctuating because of pride takeovers and starvation and injury, Ramey has asked, do these lions miss one of their teammates, one of their family, since they have such a deep bond with one another? Would they be missing one of their numbers? Have a look at that. Ramey, the answer to that question is, in my experience, no. I've never seen lions pine for any member. There we go, a little bit of discipline happening. That's one of the reasons why Junior's going to be kicked out, is he's getting big enough, as you can see there, his bulk is big enough to actually start dominating a lot of the lionesses here, including his mother. And that'll start eliciting challenges from the mother, and that'll start in turn eliciting challenges from his father. But there's still some time yet, so don't stress too much. Have a look at Junior giving us the eyeball there. Now, while we were just talking about Junior, Derek from New York has asked how much longer before Junior gets kicked out. And Derek, it's a good question, but it's also it's a difficult question to answer. We've seen Junior over the last couple of weeks trying to cover one of the lionesses that's obviously coming or has come into estrus. We also see him dominating kills like he is at the moment. He's starting to act like a dominant male lion. He's starting to really exhibit adult lion traits. And that will definitely be seen as a challenge from male lions in the area. Now, what will happen is at about 2.5 to 3 years old, Junior's mother will come into estrus. Because Junior at that time will be exhibiting or is exhibiting dominant male traits, he's going to try or he'll be receptive to that, and he'll try and cover his mother. She will obviously know that this is the wrong thing. She will aggressively rebuff that because he still is a young male lion. Because she's in estrus, she's going to be sending out all the pheromones and signs that she's ready to have another litter. That will in turn generate a response from any dominant male in the area, who will then fight for her attentions. Usually it's the most dominant male in the area that gets to her first, that she will hook up with. But at that time, Junior will be seen as a threat to this male. He will aggressively defend the mating rights. And what will happen is between his mother rebuffing him and the dominant male rebuffing him, he will move to the pride's edge, of their territory. And this will in turn put him in to conflict with other male lions. And it's all part of the natural cycle. This will have a knock-on effect. He'll be moved from one area to another, staying out of big male lions' way, scavenging where he can, hunting where he can, and eventually, when he's about 5.5, 6 years old, he'll then be big enough to actually fight for a pride of his own. Or hook up with another nomadic lion. You know, he's a single male lion in an area that is usually dominated by coalitions of male lions. But not every area in the park has a lion pride. Lions, as World Lion Day on Monday put into focus, their numbers are drastically decreasing. And lions at the moment are on the verge of becoming endangered. They only occur in national parks, and even in national parks their numbers are starting to dwindle in some areas. And it's in one of these areas that I expect a single male lion to set up a territory, at which point he'll become quite attractive for any nomadic females. It's not uncommon for lions and female lions to have no pride. In my time in the bush here in the Kruger, I've seen it 4 or 5 times where single lioness have hitched up with nomadic males and started a new pride. And it's how areas without lion prides get re-established, or how lions get re-established in an area without lion prides is probably the better way of putting it. Now, while I've been droning on about that, I'm sure that we've had a chance to see almost every one of these lionesses' eyes.
This one here on the right is
and the one on the right I've just confirmed, and it's just been confirmed as Brian, that she is the one with the amber eyes. So the lioness with the head in the carcass on the right hand side, the one that's in the center of your screen right now, I can say is most likely at this time the amber-eyed female. Which means that the Birmingham boys killed another lioness from another pride or a nomadic lioness. Which is, there you go. And you know, I'm glad that we've managed to show you that lioness. I think you must be feeling a sense of relief. That it is, although we need to find out what lioness was killed. But while myself and Brian debate that ad nauseum here in the back of the car, we're going to be sending you through to Jamie, who's got a tall guest to show you. So we'll see you in a bit. Don't go anywhere.
So guys, welcome back, and apologies for the interruption, but it seems as though those lions are not going anywhere, so we just wanted to share this really beautiful giraffe just in the stunning morning light. And she's been very obliging. She let us get nice and close and actually then moved a little bit closer to us, so we've got this fantastic view. We can really see that spot pattern beautifully. Unfortunately, what she did do was tuck her head behind the tree, just as you came across to us. But they really are one of my favorite animals. They're so beautiful. And always fascinating to watch in the way that they eat, the way that they wrap that incredibly flexible tongue around. We've got a little female here. She's beautifully highlighted in the morning light. There is also a male off to the right of her, a little bit further away. And just a beautiful view of two giraffe enjoying their breakfast. And I know that you were chatting a little bit about how the animals in this area, their movements are going to change now that it is getting drier and drier, and they're going to have to start searching further afield for good quality vegetation to get the nutrition that they need. And that will apply to giraffe as well. They will have the same problem. There is that female's eating. You can see that it's just the last few leaves left on that tree, and they're not looking particularly green or healthy. But one advantage that giraffe have that many of the other animals don't is that because they are browsers, they're going to be able to take full advantage of the first trees that start to get the really nutritious green leaves, and those are the knob thorns. So in the next month or so, maybe in the next month and a half, all of the knobthorn trees in this area are going to start to go green, and typically it is the elephants and the giraffe that get the most out of this. The rest of the browsers, such as kudu, will often follow behind the elephant herds and wait for them to push down the knobthorns, and you do see a marked increase in how many knobthorns are pushed over by elephants. So these giraffe do have a nice advantage, as do the elephants over the next month or so, but then it very much depends on the rainy season. If we have a lot of rain, then their movements will go back to normal. Giraffe are not territorial, so they kind of cruise about wherever they want to. And as always, there is the ever-present fork-tailed drongo here to take advantage of the insects being kicked up and disturbed by the giraffe. I'm not sure what she was trying to accomplish there. She's trying to reposition the branch so she could get to the leaves. And we've seen with this giraffe in this nice morning light and with the male behind her, both of them are fairly dark in color. And Colin would like to know if this is indicative of the sort of age of giraffe. Well, Colin, welcome to the Sunrise Safari, and I hope Johannesburg is not too cold at the moment. I am really glad I didn't have to experience that particular high-felt winter. Colin, yes, giraffe do get darker with age to an extent, especially the males. You'll see the very, very old bulls are nice and dark, but there's also a genetic factor in that. So just like we have different hair color, so giraffe will also have different spot colors. So you can't use it as a way of exactly determining how old the giraffe is, because different ones will start off at different shades of darkness and will get darker as they age. So I have seen some young giraffe that look fairly dark, and that is just a genetic aspect of it. So, Deborah, you tell me that this is a giraffe that we've seen before, and I'm very, very impressed. Apparently, according to Deborah, there is a peace sign around her bottom. I didn't notice that, but that is really interesting information, and it just goes to show that although we spend a lot of time IDing the various animals in terms of leopards and lions, we actually could spend some time IDing things like giraffe. So very, very cool. So as these giraffe move off and enjoy their morning breakfast, we have shared a really nice sighting with us. I'm sure you are keen to get back to the action at the buffalo kill, and I am on a mission to head across towards Arathusa So for now, I'm going to say goodbye to you all, and I will be back with you a little bit later. Enjoy your time with Steph.
Well, welcome back, and I'm glad that you moved over from the giraffe back to us. We've nothing much has changed. They're still busy enjoying their breakfast, and I'm just sitting over here relieved that we've been able to give you some good news this morning. Not so good news for the buffalo, but definitely good news for those of you who've got a connection to this pride. And if you hear some crashing off in the distance, it's just one of my colleagues is approaching, coming to have a look at the kill. There's a hooded vulture that we're going tight onto over there. Myself and Brian were talking about, there you can see that blue eye. It's a male hooded vulture. If you can take a screenshot of that vulture and zoom it in, you'll see, although the iris is quite big, it's still quite dark here in the valley. They have got the most unbelievable blue colored eye, like a turquoisey blue. Indian Ocean desert island blue type color. So Georgia and Raisa, Pretty Nightmare, have confirmed that all the members of this particular pride are here, even though 2 members of the pride have been killed in the last, or since February. The current pride dynamic stays unchanged. So the Birminghams have definitely had an effect on this pride, but it is not. They did not kill one of the lioness that we feared it might be. This one on the right hand side that's got the amber colored eyes. That is James's favorite, and I'm sure a lot of favorites out there. But coming back, I just want to confirm the fact that it's very common for lions to die. There's not anything that preys on lions out in the bush except for other lion. So although they're not cannibalistic, their numbers are controlled, they're self-controlled. And one of the ways that Mother Nature keeps lions in check is by making them quite aggressive around pride takeovers. And although I don't expect there to be much resistance, it's also not uncommon in the Sabi Sands for male coalitions to come into the area and have an effect on prides. I know when the Mapocho males came in, they ended up devastating a few prides while they cemented their dominance over the area. So we can expect to lose a few more, but you know, let's hope not too many in the course of it. Have a look at looking into this buffalo's chest cavity. Just an enormous chest cavity. Now, it would be so wide because it houses that massive foregut fermentation system that the buffalo has to digest all the grass that it's eating. And there you're looking towards the head. That brown mass where the spine ends is where the esophagus and the trachea would have entered the body cavity. Just excuse me for a couple of minutes. I'm just going to be on the radio. Yours to come in for Steph? while we're busy watching where these lions are feeding and to try and decide why they like their tastiest morsels and basically where they start first, you can see that the inside of the buffalo was eaten first. There's no evidence of any of the soft tissue, and you also notice that those ribs form quite an effective cage around those tasty morsels, which only really permit a couple of lions at a time. And very often what the younger lions will do is they'll move to the face of the lion, of the prey, and start feeding on the face. Now Cindy has remarked on that. Why do lions always tend to eat the cheeks and the nose off of the buffalo that we've been watching first before they move on to the other parts? And Cindy, you know, I would like to say that the bigger lions would definitely take the prime spots around the belly area, whereas the younger lions would go for the next best thing, which would be on the exact opposite end of the fighting that's happening. And there you have the cheeks and the nose, which are quite soft and probably quite tasty. And quite often you see younger lions or sub-adult lions going for those tasty morsels on the front of the buffalo, while the rest of the pride fights over the more nutritious, softer organs inside the belly. And once that's all done, then they're sort of all spread out around the carcass, eating the hindquarters first, moving then from the back of the carcass forward to the forequarters and finishing off with the neck area. On buffalo, that is. It doesn't always. Kudu and impala, they just tend to take a piece and run. And you'll notice from the light on the lionesses that it's actually quite open where we are at the moment. They're not sitting in deep shade. Although we're in a bit of a valley, they're not in deep shade. It's open around them. Not a lot of bushes. They've got the carcass in the open. And that means that there should be a lot of vulture activity around, but there's not that much vultures. You can see not too many trees, enough trees for there to be clouds of vultures, but there aren't too many vultures around where we are at the moment. Now, the reason for that is because yesterday was very cloudy. Yesterday was a very overcast day, and there were not enough thermals generated to get a lot of vultures into the air. And so my gut feels telling me that because there weren't so many thermals, there weren't so many vultures in the sky. Because there weren't so many vultures in the sky, you didn't get these massive funnels of vultures around kills. And so it hasn't attracted. So only really the vultures, the smaller vultures that could get up without thermals, the hooded vultures, and perhaps one or two white-backed vultures that I've seen here, but definitely not a lot. And I think it's simply because of the fact that that there weren't too many thermals around here yesterday. Now, if you just excuse me just on the radio, one more second, we just got to try and get someone in here. They're wanting to come and see, so I'm going to be busy on the radio. Enjoy what you're looking at. Excuse me yakking away. Yours coming? Yeah, sorry about that. I'm just on air at the moment. Exactly the directions that Texan just gave you. If you come south from the dam, from Juma Dam, on Twin Dams, the first prominent two-track that you get about 400 or 500 meters south of the dam, you'll see the vehicle tracks turn in there. Follow the vehicle tracks. They're quite prominent for 300 to 400 meters, and on the banks of the Mulwati you'll get two vehicles visual with the animals on the far bank. Copy that. You're welcome just to make your way in. And Diana is the other station in this position if you can't get hold of me. Excuse me, not Diana, Kersey. All right, so I'm back with you. Sorry about that. We're quite far into the bush where we are at the moment, and it's just giving everyone a proper update of where we are and what we're doing and who's all here. See, this lioness is just topped up her tummy and is now breathing very fast. You can see that belly full of meat is really pushing on her diaphragm, and that's why she's giving those short panting breaths. What amazes me is the amount of meat that these animals can consume. They've got a fairly fast metabolism. The reason for that is that meat can become poisonous in your system if it's there for too long. So lions have a very big initial part of their small intestine. So their tummy goes into a really big small intestine, and there nutrients is extracted from the meat very quickly and very effectively, and it moves through the digestive system then quite quickly, and that's to just reduce bacteria counts in these animals' bodies and to get rid of meat that is rancid and has no further use. But it does mean that they can pack away an unbelievable amount of meat in such a short time. They can literally eat 25% of their body weight at a sitting, and you'll notice that every so often they'll go and lie down for a while, sometimes up for an hour, and then come back and just top it up again. We can go if you're happy to. Have a look at that. Now, what you may or may not have picked up from the audio of this particular sighting is the fact that there has just been lions roaring to the southwest of where we are at the moment. That's why they picked up their ears like that. I was just listening while same as what you were, the same as the lions were, at least. Anyway, I was listening to see if I could locate a point of where those calls were coming from. They're not coming from too far away, and it sounded like more than 2 lions. I would almost hazard a guess that they were those 5 Birmingham boys, and not the 2 males that we heard roaring a little bit earlier today and closer to this position, which is quite interesting. You know, modern technology is amazing. While I'm sitting over here watching some lions eating on a dead buffalo, we've got the camera on at Gowrie Dam, and we just want to say thank you to all the Zoomies for updating us on this hyena saga. Apparently, for those of you who weren't watching the webcam, a hyena went into the water and was missed leaving the water and created quite a stir in the fact that everyone thought that this hyena was drowned and was lying in the mud below the surface. But it seems that it was missed. The hyena did actually get up and leave, and is not lying there dead, which is a good thing. Ooh, and if you excuse my scrunched up face every now and again, there's one of the lions that just passed some of the buffalo through their digestive system that we were talking about right now. And judging from the smell, if this was in my body, I'd also want to get rid of it as quickly as possible. It is eye-watering, the smell at the moment.
The nose hairs singe a little.
Yes. Brian is battling as much as I am where we are. Oof. Tara has just let me know that there's some debate on how many lions are here at the moment. I just want to confirm that there are definitely 7 lions here at the moment. 3 females and 1 male. So definitely 7 lions at the moment. And Chris has just asked an interesting question, and coming back to my comment a little bit earlier about the dwindling lion numbers worldwide. Now, Chris, some of the contributing factors to that are basically man's expansion into wilderness areas. Communities are getting bigger as healthcare in Africa is improving, and these communities live off of the land predominantly, are subsistence farmers and fishermen. And as these communities expand and their need for food gets bigger, or the volume of food gets bigger, I should say, people are expanding in ever greater numbers into these wilderness areas and are coming into ever increasing contact with lion. And the inevitable outcome of man-lion interaction is always the demise of the lion. Lions are big and scary. They also enjoy eating livestock, cattle, which is how Africans measure wealth. And so when a lion kills, firstly scares somebody and then kills, steals your money out of your bank account essentially, steps are taken to mitigate that risk. And lions are trapped and poisoned and shot and persecuted all over Africa for this reason. It has been happening for tens of thousands of years. It's nothing new. It's just literally just the amount of people-animal interactions have been steadily increasing at an astronomical rate over the last 30 to 50 years. And lions are now almost exclusively confined to wilderness areas where people are excluded. So in areas where animals are given the right to live, and where people are not allowed to live. But that takes us on to another topic, in that in South Africa we have a big fence around all our wilderness areas to stop the animals from getting out and hurting people and stealing livestock, and also to stop animal-borne diseases from entering the national herds which help feed all our people. But in the rest of Africa, wilderness areas are demarcated by a geographical boundary only, latitude, longitude, points on a map. And right adjacent to these boundaries of these national parks, you have what they call game management areas. And inside these game management areas, people and animals coexist. Animals and people are given the right to utilize this area. And here you have people that are allowed to hunt for certain things to help feed them. So you can get licenses to hunt. You can also get licenses to collect bush medicine, to collect firewood. Animals are tolerated in these game management areas, and they're managed in these game management areas. Primary form of this management would be hunting in areas where you can't have photographic safaris, or because of the seasonal variation in water or temperature, tsetse fly, everything else. But we're quite lucky here in this part of the world where game reserves have got a very clear boundary, and people live right up to the edges of these boundaries, like literally right onto the fence. But where people do not have this grey area. I don't quite know which one I like best. I've had some wonderful sightings with people and animals coexisting, and I think it's really, for me personally at least anyway, it's really the only way that conservation can work in Africa, is a coexistence rather than an exclusivity. Joshua in Texas has asked a nice question. I'm sure all of us have asked ourselves at one point or another. Why are the lions the king of the jungle when it doesn't seem like we're in the jungle at all? It's a good question there, Joshua. I don't actually know the answer to that question, to be honest with you. Because lions don't occur in jungles at all, not even in India, where you have lions living right up to the boundaries of jungles. And in Africa, there are no lions in jungles either. Lions are really just savanna cats, or grassland and fringe grassland cats. They don't really even like hunting in mountainous areas. They're really just like plains, grassy plains, and drainage lines like you see them at the moment. But I think the reference would probably come from the fact that lions are the most dominant of all the predators out here. There's nothing that preys on a lion except other lions. They are termed tertiary predators because of that. Apex predators is another term that you could use, very similar to a killer whale or to a great white shark. And I think if you had to go and do a bit of research, or we had to go and do a bit of research, it would probably come down to a cartoon or a song that was made when we were kids, with some reference to the king of the jungle and a handy catchphrase, which just has stuck, very similar to how the Lion King has made millions of followers of Africa and Africa's animals out of people who never would have even believed that there was things possible like that. Yes, this lioness on the left-hand side is going through the sternum and through the base of the rib cage. The breastbone is what she's busy eating or trying to get at the moment. And just the power that she's able to exert, that bone there is probably about as thick as my forearm, probably a bit thicker. There she's going now onto the far side shoulder. She's eating underneath the shoulder blade on the far side shoulder. Look at the way she's forcing her head in there. I mean, her whole head is inside that carcass. Definitely not a good thing to look at if you're feeling a bit squeamish, but nonetheless, it is an interesting thing to see. She's moving that entire carcass. So Marianne has asked, is it true that what we're watching at over here is a cut, tear and swallow action in the way that these lions like to eat their food, and there doesn't seem to be much chewing going on? And you're 100% correct there, Marianne. Lions don't possess any molars. They don't have any need to break down the meat into smaller pieces to allow for effective digestion to happen over a long period of time, as is needed in plant cell digestion. So animal cell digestion doesn't need that chewing into a finer substrate, so that digestion is more effective. Lions literally bolt down what they can in case they get chased off of a kill. So they cut and tear huge chunks of meat out, get it into their bellies in case it gets stolen from them. That way at least they would have gotten enough food to carry on. So you're quite right in your observation over there, in that they cut and tear and swallow without chewing and let their digestive system take care of the rest. And that follows on to a nice question from Jim, who wanted to know, will lions eat everything, including the bone, the hair, and the skin? And yes, the skin on a buffalo, apart from the hair, is actually quite nutritious. It's the largest organ on the buffalo and weighs a couple of 100 pounds. There's a couple of 100 pounds of meat that these lions have access to. And you can actually see that lioness on the left hand side, the one that was crunching through the bone there. She's using her carnassial shears. It's teeth that are situated just behind the canines to actually cut through the skin. You can see that white fatty layer. That's how thick the skin is. There by her nose, that's the skin. Can you believe how thick that is, eh? The skin is the black part, and then there's a fatty layer that's underneath that, and that's what they're accessing. So nice demonstration to everybody about lions feeding action, using those carnassial shears, which are basically just teeth specifically designed for cutting, and then eating the skin to get further into the carcass. And as you'd all know, when you eat this much meat, and I've just asked, when are they going to go and drink, or don't they need to drink some water? And the answer to that is absolutely. They'll drink if water is available. They don't necessarily need to drink though. Lions are not water dependent. They can get all their moisture needs literally from the stomach and the skin and the intestines of the animals that they kill. So they're not water dependent. They will drink if water is available. And it's in actual fact how we found these lions. These lions all of a sudden popped up at Nkuhuma Dam yesterday for a drink. And it was our zoomies that alerted us to these lions having a drink at the dam, that there were lions in the area. Otherwise we would never have found these buffalo. And from there, a tracking escapade happened, and these lions were eventually found very close to sunset last night. In actual fact, at sunset last night. So they'll drink when they can and when water is available, even every day. But they're not water dependent. They don't have to drink. They get all their moisture needs from the prey that they have. Have a look at that lioness. Full belly, breathing as hard as what she can. Now, to answer Anna Marie's question on is this lioness hyperventilating to aid with digestion, Anna Marie, the answer is no, they're not hyperventilating at all. They're just breathing fast, not as deep as what they can. They're breathing quite shallow at quite a rapid rate because they've eaten so much that the meat is pushing against their diaphragm, not allowing for effective expansion of their lungs. It's not a problem at all. It's normal. They're built for bolting down food. But it does mean that while they are full, they will definitely seem like they are panting. They're definitely uncomfortable. You can see that they roll around and get the meat to move through their bellies. Lions, when they're full, are disgusting things, as you can see from what they look like. They lie in their own mess and so we're going to move over to Jamie quickly. She's got a bird that she wants to show you, and we will catch you in a little bit.
So, welcome back everybody, and this particular crested barbet seems to share my own opinion as to this morning's weather. I thought we were getting warmer, the sun was just peeking out of the clouds, and then all of a sudden a whole load of fresh new clouds blew back in. So you can see how nice and puffed up he is, just trying to keep warm in this morning chill. And if I listen very, very closely, I'm just going to be quiet for a moment, I can actually hear another one calling. It is very distant, it's sort of in the background of the other bird calls. We can hear the lapwings and some of the other white-browed robin chats, but there's a distant sort of monotonous trill, and that is a crested barbet calling. And they're always one of my favorite birds to watch. They're very, very often found around camps and around lodges, and they love to come and feed on the sort of crumbs and scraps that are left behind, especially at picnic spots in Kruger. And it's fun to watch them throw their weight around. They're not enormous little birds, but they are very stocky and they've got a very solid beak. And I've seen them chase away birds that are much, much bigger than them. I've seen them chase away hornbills, some of the biggest starlings. They're very, very feisty little birds. And they do have that beautiful array of colors, that strongly contrasting black and white against the yellow belly, and just that hint of red around the eye. Really beautiful birds. I rescued one out of a swimming pool once, and my reward was a sliced open finger that needed a stitch or two. Never got a stitch or two, but it probably needed it. Those beaks, I can testify that they are really rather sharp and quite powerful. And that trill is continuing in the background. I can still hear the trill in the background. It's actually two birds. It's the male and female trilling together. You can see how sort of scruffy he looks, and that is just because he's puffed up and he's sitting up there in the wind. So he's just looking a little bit scraggly, not their usual sleek, pretty selves. His crest does seem to actually be a little bit moth-eaten. I'm not sure if he's just lost a couple of feathers on the top there, or if they're just caught in the wind at a funny angle. You can hear the wind starting to pick up now, blowing in another set of clouds. So, just a nice quick view of a rather obliging barbet. I'm glad that he decided to stick around. And maybe for some new viewers, this would be the first time that they've ever seen such a beautiful looking bird. So really, really cool, very, very pretty, feisty little bird. So just to let you guys know what I'm up to at the moment, I am in Arethusa. I'm looking for updates on the mating leopards that were seen yesterday. So for those of you who might have missed the sunset safari, Kwetile was seen mating with Tingana. We only caught the sort of right at the end of the sunset drive. We managed to locate Tingana, and he'd actually moved away from Kwetile to respond to another male leopard's call and just make sure that he was making sure to assert his dominance. So we followed him for a little bit. He was repeatedly calling, just that very low rasping sort of sawing sound, and just letting all the other males know. I'm assuming probably the Anderson male would be the biggest threat, but I'm sure Mvula is also a possibility. So I've come back to the area where Kwetile was last seen, and I'm going to see if I can follow up. There don't seem to be any updates from the Arethusa guides, but they did all spend some time with them yesterday, so they might be often looking about for different things. So I'm back close to the area where Kwetile was. I'm going to see if I can find her and track those two leopards. Hopefully we didn't catch them at the end of their mating season. Maybe they are still continuing to mate today. So those are my plans. However, I'm going to need to search very hard for tracks and possibly even get off the car and walk. So I'm going to send you back across to Steph, and I will catch up with you a little bit later.
Well, welcome back to breakfast time with the with the Nkuhuma Pride that have killed a buffalo about 500 or 600 meters south of Vuyatela Djuma camp at the moment. And the inevitable question about the Birmingham boys have come up, which is a very big topic that we need to talk about here. I have had some feedback on the radio this morning, and this is for Angie, who's asked about the Birmingham boys. Good morning, Angie. I've just heard that the Birmingham boys have run into the Styx Pride, and I haven't got confirmation on it yet, but it looks like there's been a bit of a clash there with the Styx Pride. And it might be the reason why we're hearing so much roaring from where we are at the moment. We definitely had the two Matimbas roaring a bit earlier this morning. I actually woke up to them roaring this morning. And then about 10 minutes ago, off in this direction here, 2 or 3 kilometers away, we've had the Birmingham boys roaring. What I believe to be the Birmingham boys. It's definitely more than 2 lions that are roaring. And since there's only these male lions in the area at the moment, I can only assume that it's the 2 of them doing it. So we've got confirmation that the Birmingham boys are southwest of where we are at the moment, I think, and we've got the Matimbas, which are just south of this position now, a couple of 100 meters. And I'm hearing on the radio these sporadic updates of the Birminghams running into the Styx lionesses. I don't know what the outcome of that is just yet, but I will keep my ear peeled, and as soon as we know what's going on, I'll definitely be able to update you for sure. We just had one of our Zoomies, Jody, has just asked me a question, and I just want to say good morning. Good morning, Jody. You've asked me, as full as what they are, would these lions be able to jump up and protect themselves if the Birmingham boys had to run in here and basically come and do something to them? And I don't think that there'd be an initial attack from the Birmingham boys, to be quite honest with you. I think that if the Birmingham boys had to come in here, it would be aimed at coming in to first steal the carcass from these lionesses. It would then be to chase Junior off if they could, and it would then be to dominate any lionesses that are here to try and find out if any of them were in estrus. Would they be able to defend themselves being as full as what they are? Absolutely. Would they try and run away before they had to get to a fight? More than likely. They've each had a decent meal. They're not hungry. They're not protecting cubs. There's no reason to risk their lives over what's left of this buffalo carcass. And for that reason, I don't think that they'd put up much of a fight. I think Junior would get up and skedaddle as fast as what he could. He's leaving behind a carcass, which means that unless the Birmingham males were really riled up, they wouldn't really give much of a chase. Eating and keeping up their energy would take over, that instinct to do that, and they would pretty much just come in here and finish the rest of the buffalo, leaving the rest of the pride to move off. So what I don't want to do is create an impression that the Birmingham boys' pride takeover is something that's sudden, incredibly violent, these gangsters basically that come into an area and take over. To a certain degree, it is violent. There will be casualties. Lions are definitely, they live and they die quite hard, and so these are quite often high energy, lots of movement, lots of interaction encounters. But the Birmingham boys have been in this area for more than a year now, and these lions have been hearing and smelling them for more than a year. They know one another. They know one another, if not intimately, they know one another by association. Their roars, their smells, they know of them. And it's a gradual, but it's a definite process, a pride takeover. And although we like filming interactions with these lions, where they have roars and they meet with one another, it's a lot of scent marking. The majority of a pride takeover is a lot of posturing, a lot of roaring, a lot of scent marking. It happens gradually. Male lions won't just come into an area and kill everything that they find, because it doesn't bode well for them being able to impregnate as many females as possible. Females are geared to respond to the most dominant males in the area at the time. They don't have any allegiance to the two dominant males that are holding sway over this pride at the moment, the two Matimbas. There's no allegiance there whatsoever. The two dominant males have just taken over the pride. They will release their control over the pride. And this can sometimes result in a few skirmishes while it's being decided. But lions are born to fight, especially male lions. And quite often these encounters leave lions bloody and bashed up, but for the most part without too much else wrong with them. Look at this lioness. So Carol has asked, how old is Junior? I would say Junior's probably about 3.5 years old, Carol. 3 to 3.5 years old. And William has asked, does Junior's mane look a little bit darker than it did the last time? Let me see if I can get these branches out the way without chasing everything away. Let's see if I can do this for you. We're all a bit close to these lines. I don't want to scare them or make them cross with me. So let me get my pink head out the way. So, William, there you've got Junior looking at us. I don't particularly think that his mane is any darker than what it was, and generally lion manes get darker in response to massive loads of adrenaline and testosterone. And this is only really associated with lions that are taking over a pride. So though he's got a little bit of a dark crest there between his ears and along his back, it's no darker than what I thought it was last time. He's also got some dark hairs coming through under his chin, but his big thick mane will really only start coming in about 2 or 3 years time. He's still quite a long way away from having a big thick dark mane. Not like that hairy bellied male. He's probably the hairiest male lion I've seen in the Kruger National Park in my life. He's really got a magnificent mane. And I can only imagine those Birmingham boys, who for the most part have all got ginger manes, will now start to develop those very, very thick manes, typical of dominant male lions in an area. Excuse the scratching on the mic while I just put this branch back. I'll notice that that lioness was looking at me with disdain in her eyes. Excuse me for 1 second, I'm just going to be on the radio for a bit. Go, Diana. Copy that. Just hold on 1 second for me. Right. Copy that. It's actually going to take me about 5 minutes to get out of the position that I'm in at the moment. Which direction is he heading in? Okay, copy that. Thanks. I'm probably going to give it a skip for now, but thanks very much for the update. Just how old was that carcass? Okay, copy that. Thank you very much. All right. Well, I'll need to give you an update on the Birmingham boys' movements this morning. I think it's important that I do. The Birmingham boys have bashed into the Styx Pride today and have killed a couple of the cubs, those young cubs. So that's the update that I have for now, is that the Birmingham boys have bumped into the Styx Pride on Chitwa and have managed to actually kill some of the cubs from the pride. I know it's going to come as a bit of a shock to you. Generally speaking, when male lions come into an area, all cubs younger than 1 year are generally systematically killed. The reason for this is because it forces the females to come into estrus again. They literally come into estrus within 100 days of an event like this. And that way, that male lion gets his genes into the system as quickly as possible. If he had to wait for those cubs to grow up, his mother will only come into estrus again, or their mother will only come into estrus again every 2.5 to 3 years. And by that time, he could actually lose dominance over this area. So it's natural for this to happen. It is a bit of a shock. It seems quite savage, but it's what's been happening in lion societies for thousands and tens of thousands of years. So sad day. I think we definitely need to toast those babies on. There were some brilliant sightings. They had some brilliant sightings value, but hopefully within the next 6 months or so, we've got a new batch of cubs to replace them. That's how it works. We've just had some nice news on a lighter note from Edward, and I just want to say thank you, Edward. It's very interesting to know that. Edward has gone and done some research for us and has found out that the word jungle is from a Hindi word meaning uninhabited place. And the phrase king of the jungle would mean, I suppose, that lions are found in uninhabited places and are the kings of that uninhabited place, which is an exact description of what lions are. And I just want to say thank you, Edward. Thanks for that. That was actually a nice tidbit of information there, the tail end of that bad news. So coming back to our news about the lion dynamics around here at the moment, or the politics that's happening at the moment, Linda in Winnipeg has asked if it would be feasible to think that the lions would join up, the Nkuhuma Pride would join up with the Styx Pride and have strength in numbers to try and repel this. So the answer to that question, if the two prides are unrelated, the answer to that is no. Each lion pride is dominated by females. Those females hold a territory that they actively defend against other prides, and male lions come in and come out to add genetic diversity and give longevity to that particular pride. It's a very common, very normal thing for pride takeovers to happen. It must happen. It must happen, otherwise you get sons mating with mothers, and you get daughters mating with fathers. The genetic diversity or the genetic depth in any pride would definitely be hurt if pride takeovers didn't take place. And the only way that pride takeovers take place amongst apex predators like this is, unfortunately, by the dominance of that particular pride being shifted from one male lion sect to another male lion sect. And because lions are relatively short-lived creatures that only hold on to their territories for even shorter, only 2 to 3 years, male lions can't wait to get their genes into a system. They can't wait for a weaker male lion genes to actually get into a system, and so these takeovers quite often result in the death of cubs. It's sad, it definitely is, but it's not something that I would recommend us all dwell on. It's going to happen and has happened lots. So Linda said, does this event signify the end of the reign of the Matimbas? And no, it definitely isn't. They're definitely going to have a lot of fight left in them. It also falls onto the question from John, who says, where are these lions? What's happening with them? Why are the Matimbas not putting up a fight? And you probably find that they're definitely in the same geographic area as one another. We've been hearing them roaring for most of the morning. The two Matimba males are lying, or the last time I heard them roaring, they were probably about a half a kilometer to a kilometer from where I am at the moment. And the Birmingham boys, when I heard them roaring about an hour ago, they were probably about 4 kilometers. Now, what may have happened is that the Styx lionesses just accidentally bumped into the Birmingham boys, or vice versa, while the Matimbas were out patrolling the edges of their territory. And all this action happened pretty much before they could respond. I have no doubt that they were able to hear everything, and so were very well aware of what was going on throughout the entire ordeal. The other option that could have happened is that they very well may be slipping in their hold over the Styx Pride, And the Birmingham boys are really putting a lot of pressure on the Matimbas at the moment. So you have two scenarios developing at the moment. One is that the Birmingham boys were just at the right place at the right time for them, and wrong time for the Styx Lioness. And the other one where they actually have managed to take over this Pride and are now systematically going through the motions of just cementing their dominance over the area. If I were to make a decision between the two, knowing that Pride takeovers take 6 months to a year to really get going, and quite often it's not uncommon to have a Pride takeover where two old males are kicked out of an area and for successive coalitions of male lions to come in before a new Pride is established. I would probably go with the fact that I think that Birmingham's were just at the right place at the wrong time for the Styx Lioness. That's what my opinion is at the moment. I don't think that the Matimbas have lost out anything. The Matimbas do unfortunately hold sway over a massive amount of land, much bigger than the average coalition holds. They actually hold dominance over 4 prides of lion, when it's just common for male lions to actually hold sway over 2 prides of lion, or 1 pride of lion actually. So I think it's just a combination of too few lions spread over too thin an area, and this creates opportunity for new male lions. That's what I'd say, definitely. So Ramey has picked up on the fact that I don't quite know. I'm not really convinced of how many cubs have survived and how many haven't, and I haven't passed that message on to you. Ramey, I'm not actually sure, to be quite honest. I'm getting a variety of different feedback through the radio, going from all the cubs have been killed to only 2 of the cubs have been killed, 2 of the 3. I'll definitely keep you updated as I'm updated. What's happening is that this interaction has happened on the boundary of 3 or 4 different reserves, and so these lions have been moving from one reserve to another, and in and out of our radio comms. So we're hearing sporadic updates of this particular sighting. It seems to be quite dynamic in that they're moving quite a lot, but what we're not hearing is any sort of conclusive evidence. I would like to say that, as my understanding is right now, that 2 of the 3 cubs have been killed, but 1 has managed to escape. That's as I have it now. However, as soon as I get a conclusive evidence, I'll let you know, definitely. Whew. The smell coming off of this carcass at the moment is fantastic. Diana, are those animals on the move at the moment? Okay, copy that. I'm going to come into that area. I'll come give you a hand if you want. I'm going to leave this sighting now. Have you got anyone else helping you there? Okay, copy that. Will do. I saw that lioness was having a good go at that drongo over there. It's like, not because she wants some food, you probably just find it's a moving target, very similar to how your cat will chase anything that moves. Yeah, go Diana. So I think what I'm going to do right now, I think let's give these lions a break. From what I'm hearing on the radio, the Birmingham boys have actually crossed into our area, and I think it would be well worth us going to see if we can relocate on them and see what's going on. You know, let's go and see what these guys have been up to. Let's see what they're up to. Let's see if they've got any blood on them, any scratches on them, and see if they are actively pursuing the Matimbas. I think everything is happening sort of in this area where we are at the moment. Definitely will be a good idea to go and have a look. So I think let's go and give it a bash. So we're just going to get ourselves out of this area at the moment and see if we can find out what's going on. So while myself and Brian try and sort out everything that we can over here, I think it would be a good idea, so that you don't have to bounce around through the bush with us, to go back to Jamie, and we'll keep you updated. Don't go anywhere. I'm sure it's going to get exciting over here when you know what's going on, and we'll see you in a bit.
So guys, welcome back, and some very, very sad news about the Styx cubs. Now, I know that there are many viewers who are going to be very, very upset at this news, and that includes myself. So I have a bit of a soft spot for the Styx cubs. When I was here on my trial drive, it was the first time they were seen by WildEarth viewers. I was with Brent and Andrew, and we saw them for the first time out and about when they were probably about 2 months old or so. So very, very sad news, but at the moment unconfirmed how many of them were killed. It seems as though it was 2, but there might be another little survivor making his way south with his mom. So very, very sad day for the Styx cubs, and the Birmingham boys are certainly acting faster than I at least expected them to. I thought it would take them a little bit longer to get to this point of really pushing into the Matimbas territory. They've obviously picked up in that conflict that happened about a week ago with Brent between the Matimba males and the Birmingham boys. They obviously picked up that the Matimba males were quite sort of spread thin across the area, and they realized that they could take advantage of that. So a sad, sad day, sad news for everybody concerned. We are still trying to find out where these leopards have gone. Most of the other guides have actually moved off to see if they can see the Birmingham boys, which means that we're kind of on our own at the moment, just looking for these mating leopards. But maybe it would be a very nice way to finish off quite a sad sunrise safari with some good news of the possibility of new life. So let's continue on. We are in the most beautiful area I think I've been in Arethusa, and I must say I really, really like this property. We've got this incredible drainage line and all of these amazing tambuti trees that we were looking at right at the start of this shot. All these young tambuti trees. Beautiful to look at. very, very deadly trees. They have a particularly poisonous latex. I'm just going to hop out actually and grab some just to show you what it is I'm talking about. And it's something that you really, really want to avoid. You definitely do not want to cook on the wood, and you certainly don't want to even sit downwind of the smoke if you are burning tambueti wood. So it's one of the most important things you learn about when you are a guide starting out, is to avoid trees like this. Let's see if I can find a nice green branch to show you. Always surprisingly tricky. Here we go, we've got some coming through here. Do you think you'll be able to get that, Andrew?
I think so.
Yeah. That little dot of white right at the end of the leaf,
Ooh.
that is the latex, and it's highly, highly, highly toxic. A teaspoon of this will kill a full-grown man, full-grown healthy man. So definitely something you want to avoid, but also a great place to pitch your sleeping arrangements if you are sleeping outside. Have you got it? Are you done?
Yeah.
I'm going to make sure I avoid touching my eyes. I prefer not to have a very sore eye. So definitely a good place to sleep, and the reason for that is mosquitoes and the other insects, especially in summer, tend to avoid hanging around where there are tambueti trees. And I know that local people often use a little dab of that latex, and they put it onto toothache. If you've got a sore tooth or a sore gum, they sort of recommend putting it on there. And you can do it. Apparently it doesn't work too well, but it does sort of numb the pain for a while, but it will make you feel a little bit sick, and anything more than just a dab is going to make you feel really very, very sick. So definitely a tree to be avoided in terms of cooking. I have heard stories of unknowing visitors actually roasting marshmallows on tambueti sticks, which is not a mistake you want to make. You're going to be feeling very, very sick. And my one encounter with tambueti fire or tambueti smoke was, we were doing some controlled burning in an area, and the fire jumped across to a neighboring property, and we had to climb through the fence to try and put it out, and it set a very large fallen tambueti tree on fire. And we had to climb through the fence to try and put it out, and it set a very large fallen tambueti tree on fire, and I definitely did not feel well. I was throwing up for most of the next day. It is a very unpleasant tree to come into contact with the smoke. So I'm going to avoid touching my eyes and touching my mouth for now as we head out. The interesting thing about that is, although it is hugely toxic to humans, it is not toxic to animals. It's actually the favorite, or one of the favorite foods of a black rhino. They do like to come through, they scrape the bark, they eat the leaves, they eat the twigs. So completely different poison system, and obviously different species respond in different ways to toxins. So for black rhino, things like porcupine will also come around and eat the leaves. It is a valuable food source, which is a good lesson in why you should not just assume that if one animal eats it, that you can. I know elephants can consume it as well if they want to. Still looking very carefully for the tracks of these leopards. Tucked away in this drainage line was where the female Kwetile, the female leopard, was mating with Tingana. I have not seen any fresh leopard tracks, but I have seen lots and lots of hyena activity. So I'm starting to wonder if maybe they weren't sort of pushed out of their area by hyenas, or at least if she wasn't. Tingana might have gone north or continued with his passage north from where we left him last night, which was to move to respond to another male leopard's call. And obviously when he is mating, he's going to be fairly determined to keep all of the other big threatening males out of the area. There's also lots and lots of elephant activity. And after the end of the sunset safari, it took Brian and myself a considerably longer period of time than it should have to get back to camp, largely due to multiple elephant roadblocks on the way home. So that could also have been a reason for them to move out of this area. So I'm just starting to move across to where I last saw Tingana. See if maybe I can pick up if his tracks came back towards the female or if they continued onwards. That might have been my imagination playing tricks on me. Yeah, it definitely was. I'm seeing leopard tracks everywhere. When I last saw Tingana, he was making his way just north of the Arathusa Dam, heading in the direction of that other male leopard's call. So he's heading towards First Windmill, for those of you who are a bit more familiar with this area. Doing this search for Tingana, you will remember that I promised to try and find the new hyena den, and Carol and Lisa in particular would like to know if I've had any luck in that respect, especially with finding where that little cub, the little black cub, has moved off to. And I'm afraid to say I haven't. It's not been because I haven't wanted to. This morning I was stymied by that enormous herd, the enormous breeding herd of buffalo. So every time I seem to head in that direction, there seems to be another animal that's making my life a little bit more difficult in terms of hopping out and going walking around for hyena dens. I'm still certain that they are in that area. There's hyena tracks, fresh hyena activity, and of those 3 slightly older cubs moving through quite frequently. Every night and every early morning I've seen the tracks for them there. So I'm sure that they are there. We will keep, I'm sure we're going to find it. The biggest difficulty is going to be if they are denning in that drainage line itself, if there's a termite mound at the base or somewhere around there, in which case we might struggle just a little bit to be able to get a nice view of them. But that's just going to require a little bit of legwork from myself and Steph, and I'm sure we're going to be able to find it fairly soon and have a bit of an update for you guys in that respect. Certainly, as many of you will know, they are my favorite predator. I love spending time with them. They are certainly never boring. the land of the bolsters, all those big bumps that we see. I just wanted to stop and see what that Nyala was staring at. He did seem to be staring very, very intently off into the distance. But I think, judging by the Dacre that just shot past him, he was just having a bit of a stare down with the grey Dacre, which has now disappeared from view. But a nice, beautiful big male. Look at how the sun catches the sort of ivory tips of his horns, that nice light-coloured part. And those sort of pale-coloured tips tell us that he is quite a nice, mature, older bull. You can see that he's got a full head of horns. Really, really beautiful, beautiful animal. Perfectly symmetrical, with that amazing ridge of hair along his back, just catching the light. And watching Nyala bulls puff themselves up, a term that's known as piloerection, when that crest rises up all the way down the center of his back, and they fluff their tails up just to make themselves look much, much bigger. It's always hugely entertaining to watch. They then do what's known as lateral presentation to each other, so two mature bulls will stand side to side just to show each other how big and impressive they look. And then they do a very, very slow dance in sort of slow motion, high step. Highly entertaining to watch, but they are really stunning animals. And just before I forget, I did actually forget a moment ago, but a little bit earlier Andrew spotted something and we've picked it up, and we want to play a little bit of a guessing game with you guys. We want to see if you can figure out what this is. It is something a little bit different. Now, I know that a lot of you are still maybe not in the mood for games. You're feeling a little bit sad about, or very sad about, the Styx Cubs, but let's do something to take your mind off it and see if we can figure out what this is. So there you go. Picked it up. You can see it's got, if I tilt it slightly, you can see it's almost got layers. And I want to know from you guys what you think this is. I'll tilt it slightly so you can see how thick it is. Very, very thin. That's what it looks like on the other side. So I'm very curious to hear what you guys think this is from. I want to know not just the sort of the generic term, I'd like to know the species name as well, please. And even better would be the official name for what this particular part is. And you can send your answers through to #SafariLive on Twitter or to questions@wildearth.tv. And we'll see if any of you can guess what this came from. Nice and layered. So, one last look and then we shall head out. And I'm curious to see if maybe we could have caught you guys out on this particular question. I have got another thing up my sleeve for a little bit later, but we'll see if we get to that. For now, I want to continue on with our mission. I'm going to keep hold of that little piece of material so that we can see it a little bit later when we get through some answers and we can chat a little bit more about it. For now, let's see if we can figure out where this leopard has gone. This is very, very close to where I left him last night. He just popped out just at that corner up there. So let's see if we can figure out. When I left, there were quite a few other vehicles around. Rounding his tracks straight away. Probably not likely. And then I want to loop back and see if I can follow up on that female.
Okay, sorry about the crash cut, folks. We just found this Birmingham male, and we needed to get you to see him while he was close to our car. They've definitely been in a fight. You can see the scars on his face there. Have a look at that intent that they're moving through the bush with, nose down. We just found 2 of the 5 at the moment, and this one that you're busy looking at the moment has got a full belly. Don't know what he's been, some impala running away from him in the front there. Not interested at all. Definitely nose in the grass, following something. You probably find he's trying to look for his other brother, but have a look at that. Sniffing around. The Nkuhumas have been in this area for a long time. So have the sticks. This is a boundary area. That male that you're busy having a look at over there, he definitely has been in a fight. I can see lots of scratches on his face. Now it's going to be a bit difficult for us to go in here, but we're going to try and go around and see if we can pick them up on the other side of this thicket. So it's going to get a bit crashy. You're going to have to just stick with me for a little bit. I can see them. We're going to be going through this monkey thorn thicket, which is going to make a lot of noise on the side of the car. And once again, I just want to apologize for crash cutting away from Jamie like that. We just wanted to show you these guys. They're all moving. And that means that these sightings can be quite dynamic. And we wanted to get into the action as quickly as possible. They are all from my left hand side, just a little bit, trying not to drive over every tree that I possibly can. Let's see, there they come out from behind the termite mound. You should see them in the front of the car. Just going to try and see if I can get in front of them, so that we can see their faces, that I can show you their faces. They are moving at a pace. The one at the back is the one with a bit of a fight. Have a look at the scars and the scratches all over his face. That's definitely claw marks and bite marks, and you can see by their panting that they're doing at the moment. It's very typical of male lions that are riled up, male lions that have their blood up, as they like to say. Now we are actually quite close to the carcass, the buffalo carcass, the Nkuhumas on it. And it's going to be interesting to see what happens there. Watch out for this. trying to get out of these monkey thorn thickets is going to definitely give me a workout today. Lions. We are still like you'll notice me waving at some colleagues that we've got helping us in this search. We've definitely got the most agile of the vehicles, and quite often our colleagues let us do the driving through the bush. While they loop around on the road, which is a good thing. How are you? Yeah, thanks. Awesome. Thank you so much. Hey, Morty. Good news. So there we've got these lions off on our right-hand side. They are literally going. I'm going to get onto the other side of the giraffe. I think it's going to be quite a nice picture with the giraffe. There's just everything. Giraffe, lion. Alrighty, so now we've got a giraffe, and I'm sorry about all these gremlins and breakups and signal jumpy. We're on quite a signal poor area where we are at the moment. It's just a very low-lying area of the reserve. So it does, as we're moving through there, get a bit jumpy. And thanks for sticking with us. Thanks for not going anywhere. And here we've got a big giraffe off just over my head, and these male lions are literally just going to walk straight past them, it seems. I don't think this giraffe will run away. He might move away. They are quite close to him in actual fact. Have a look at that, watching these lions. Now the Nkuhumas are not too far away from here. There is another vehicle with them. They've just said that the Nkuhumas have been watching intently what's going on in the bush around them. They obviously know what's happening. And they've moved off of that buffalo carcass. Can you believe it? They knew before anything. These male lions have now bypassed this giraffe. There you can see, absolutely not interested in them at all. Isn't that a sight to see? I must be honest, it's one of the most exciting things in the bush is a pride takeover. It's like two superpowers going at a war with one another. And although it's not something with bombs and nukes, and you have these moments like this where you have obviously a high action and high energy through the course of a morning, and that gets these guys adrenaline pumped, and that makes them have a look at that face. Now I have no doubt that if these lions smell that kill, they're going to move straight in on it. Have a look at his face. Definitely smelling something, there's no doubt. Can have a look. He's panting, his belly is a bit full. Have a look at that blood and everything on his face. Coming back to the car, as you can see, there's no real direction that they're going in at the moment. They're not confused. It's got some thorns stuck in his mane as well, under his chin. Wow. Seems like they've lost that scent trail, whatever they were following. They're going almost back the way that he's just come and away from the buffalo carcass. So that's a good sign. That's a good sign for the Nkuhumas. It doesn't look like these lions have caught wind of them, and we're not far away from them at all. I'll be honest, we're probably in the region of about 150 or 200 meters from them, 200 yards from them at most. And now these lions are going back the way that they came, looking like they've lost the scent of what they were following. They were following something with intent, and now not anymore. Let's go around this thicket. It's going to keep them in view. Still walking away from it. Yeah, okay. It's always tough in bush like this to actually pick the direction that these animals are going in. It's why it's so good to have two of us on the car. One of us can concentrate on not ripping the bottom of the vehicle out. Alrighty, we seem to have a bit more of an open patch here. We can go parallel to this thicket to see if he comes out. Let's have a look. And of course the ever-present flies buzzing around my face, driving me to distraction. Alright. He's going to be here somewhere. We have had to make a bit of a loop. You can see one of the vehicles still in the background. A lot of our colleagues that are here. I don't think he's come out of this little bush. This time of the year, the grass and everything is the same color as these lions. It makes for quite difficult spotting, even though it's open. Are you okay there? Try not to get scalped by one of the branches here. Okay, now we've come around this thicket and it doesn't look like this male lion's actually come out of it. I think he's somewhere in here. So the giraffe still has this lion, it looks like, watching with intent, always watching us. So why I've gone silent is because we're just busy concentrating on where these lions are. I have absolutely lost them. I have heard on the radio at the moment that the Nkuhumas have been chased off of the buffalo kill by one male lion, and I have no doubt that it's the male lion that these two for their one brother. And so we can confirm that the Nkuhumas have left the buffalo car. And moved off to the west. Incident. Wow, I believe that in this type of bush we've actually lost sight of these two male lions. Given us the slip. Can you believe it? Okay, got them. So one of them is just laying down. That's why we missed them. They lay down in the shade. And here we've got them in front of us over here. So here these two boys are here. Whew, that was a bit of an exercise you guys gave me this morning, eh? Well done. So sorry, just about all that bashing around. Let me just recap for everyone, because I think it's important that that we do this from time to time. I can get a bit lost in translation, trying to do a million things at once. So what we have the Nkuhuma Pride. We have the Nkuhuma Pride that are on a buffalo kill with Junior in attendance, and the Birmingham boys have run into this area. Three of the 5 Birmingham boys have run into this area, with one of the 5 Birmingham boys actually chasing the Nkuhumas off of that buffalo kill. Now this is at the end of a morning where these Birminghams have also bumped into the Styx Pride, and from what I can gather have killed 1 or 2 of the cubs, the 3 tiny cubs. They are separated from one another. They are lying now probably 200 meters away from that buffalo carcass, but the wind is not blowing from the carcass to these guys, and I think they've actually lost the scent of their brother, to be honest. So we have 2 of the 3 with us. 200 meters away is the other Birmingham boy on the buffalo carcass from the Nkuhumas. The Nkuhumas have run off west, and this is after these 2 guys have bumped, or the 3 of them have bumped into the Styx Pride and have killed 2 of the 3 baby cubs. So a very busy morning for these 2 guys, and as you can see they are panting with the exertion that they've been showing. So Josephine has just asked, and hello Josephine, a very good question. You know, with these male lions killing the cubs, which is quite sad and, you know, quite tragic in its own small little way, will this end, or does this have a chance of ending lion cubs and adding, or lions and adding to this rate of extinction? And Josephine, I actually want to say exactly the opposite is the outcome of this. It is exactly because they've killed some lion cubs and will get their genes into the ecosystem, that lions stand the best chance of making it through this event, through this extinction event that's going on at the moment. And the reason for that is because these male lions obviously come from a very successful pride. For that pride to be successful enough to raise 5 male lions to the point where they are able to take over another pride is a monumental feat. And they have then managed to not only be successful in their own way, but have also now become strong enough to vie for the top position in a successful pride. The Nkuhumas and the Styx pride are obviously successful. And because you've got a successful lioness pride and you've got successful male lions, you can only make the species stronger and more resilient to change. So it's quite sad at the moment. It is a natural event. We have seen those little cubs from time to time on the show, but we will see new cubs as a result, as a direct result of this, and cubs that are stronger for it. So it's sad now, but not too much of a tragedy for the species, not at all. So I hope that answered your questions. It's a bit of a roundabout way to get to it, but I hope so. So Heather has asked, if the Birmingham boys kill the Matimbas, would they automatically take over all the territory that they held and then by default take over the 4 prides that the Matimbas hold? I'm going to say that there's a chance that they do it. I mean, 5 are definitely stronger than 2, but the Matimbas were almost acting in a male pool, a male vacuum. It's uncommon for male lions to hold sway over more than one pride. You do find it, of course you find it, but generally there's a power vacuum there, and that would have been filled by any coalition of males coming in. Time will tell whether or not these 5 male lions are strong enough to actually withstand pressure from other males. I have no doubt that the Matimbas are still strong enough to hold territory in this area. I don't think that we're seeing the end of the Matimbas. They are a very strong coalition. They are experienced lions that are not out of their prime just yet. And I have no doubt that there are going to be many such skirmishes while new boundaries are being established. What a difference from the male lions we saw sleeping under the bush a couple of weeks, 3 or 4 weeks ago. It was one of the first times since November, December, that the Birminghams have actually come onto Nkuhuma's property. And what a difference in these males. They've gone from being young males just trying to keep out of everybody's way to now actively fighting or vying for the dominant position of a pride of lion, or a couple of prides of lion. And it is unbelievable the change in attitude that I've seen in these lions. In all 16 years I've been working in the bush, I've only witnessed pride takeovers 4 or 5 times. And every time, now in reflection, I come back and I think about the massive change that undergoes male lions, or male lion psyche almost, during this change. So Karina in Finland has made an interesting observation. What will happen to the female's cubs who was just mating with a hairy-bellied Matimba male if the Birmingham boys take over the Styx pride? That's a good question. Quite often what happens is females will instigate, when they know they're pregnant, they'll instigate a short mating session with the new dominant males, and that lets that male think that the baby is his, even if the babies are only born a couple of weeks later. So you got a male, that is typical male lion, just picking a fight. He's rubbed his facial glands all over that bush, now he's urinating all over that bush. That's him picking a fight. See where he's going. They've had a short rest now after that quite energetic walk. So just to come back to that question, I hope that that answers your question. So quite often the mothers, knowing that there's new fathers around but not wanting to lose her cubs, will instigate almost a short mating session while they're pregnant with another male's cubs, tricking these males into believing that that they are the fathers of those babies. He looks like he's had a smack on his ear. His one ear is hanging a little bit lopsided. That male that's going off, he's literally walked off in exactly the direction of this kill. How are you? I think let's follow him. I think we're going to see something there. So what we've done is Jamie has come into this area, and Jamie is at the moment trying to find what's happened to the Nkuhumas. So they ran off west from this kill, and Jamie's coming to the area to see if she can find them. As soon as she finds them or finds some news about them, I'm sure we'll go for an update with Jamie. See what this male lion's about. He's on a game path going towards this pan, straight towards where the buffalo carcass is. Crazy Steph, what's the vehicle movement like around that buffalo carcass? See vehicle movement like in these two sightings. It looks like they're going to be converging. Yeah, chili pan. Okay, just confirm the Nkuhumas are still on that buffalo carcass. Okay, copy that. These two males are at Chile Pan. Still just wandering sort of aimlessly, but in the general direction of where you are now. So we've just got news that the Nkuhumas who were watching the one Birmingham boy eating their buffalo have now moved off. Junior's decided that the pressure is a little bit too much and he's moved off, which is a good decision from him. And these two guys are slowly making their way back out to there. Have a look at how powerful this looks with these male lions walking. I say when male lions get their energy up or get their blood hot, there's very few things that are as scary as that to witness. Have a look at that. Whew. Boys on a mission. What a morning, I must be honest with you. And it's a pleasure sharing it with you. Don't you think it's just fantastic? Being able to be on a live safari in the middle of the Kruger National Park following the saga of a pride takeover in a couple of prides in this area, and being able to bring you updates as often as what we bring you. I mean, it really is, if you think about it, really phenomenal, really fantastic. I noticed that we've got some vulture activity flying around above these lines, and there's no doubt that they've been watching. Their front paws are enormous. Have a look at that. Some fresh lion tracks there for you to have a look at. I think there are lions here somewhere. Okay, so now these lines are going down into this drainage line. From where they are right now, we can't follow them. I've walked inside there, and they are crossing through there. Yeah, Texa, these animals are moving directly towards where you are right now. Texan, you copy that? We're going to have to go around, folks. We can't cross through this drainage line where they are. Gets a bit that gate path that game pass straight towards a tree full of vultures here. They're going to make their way back to the What we're going to do is let's go around and go and actually make a buffalo carcass. Make their way into that. Just going around to the carcass, they're definitely all in the same area. So somewhere around here, there's the Nkuhuma Pride as well. Jamie's still out looking for them. And we're almost back there again. It's amazing how this on one another. It's crazy. Told from Tara and FC that our signal's a bit bad, so we're going to link through to Jamie while we get into a better place, and we'll see you in a bit.
So guys, welcome back, and we've rushed across from Arathusa to get to this sighting as well. Just making our way in to where this carcass was seen with the Nkuhumas. There's lots and lots of vultures flying around. We're just going to see if we can make our way in here. And because there are lots and lots of vehicles at the Birmingham Boys sighting as well as the Nkuhuma sighting, we've just come across to the outskirts so that we can... So guys, Steph's got the Nkuhumas. We've got a great position here to watch the action, and we'll be back with you later.
Go to the kill. And look what we just bumped into, a very, very happy very happy Nkuhumas that are over here. It's they've all reunited with one another. We've even got Junior over here, which we'll show you in a second. They've all just come back together. It looks like they split away from the carcass and are now with one another again, moving back west. So full but alive, no contest. So all good in the world of lions for the Nkuhumas at the moment. The stations, I got the Nkuhuma Pride just crossing Twin Dams in a westerly direction now, at the access to this particular kill. There are myself in this position and 2 behind me. Cozy, do you copy that? Copy that. Texan, you can cancel my approach to that carcass. I'm going to stay with the Pride. Alrighty, so I think let's carry on and follow them and see what they're going to get up to. What I'm interested to find out is, we know that those 3 males are going to be going to that buffalo carcass. We know where that is. I want to know how far these lions are going to be moving from those Birmingham boys. They're literally not within sight, but they're within 100 meters or so from one another. And from what Texan told me, they sat watching one another for a bit, which is interesting because it goes against what I know from male lions interacting with one another that is Junior's age. And what that means is that either Junior is the bravest lion on the face of the planet, or he is still too young to be any threat to these guys. And they've had an interaction before. He's shown his subservience. He's shown that they're the big guys. He's been as meek as what he can, and they're quite content then just to leave him be, which is amazing. He definitely is smaller than those guys. You can see just, and if you correspond his behavior at the moment to what we saw a little bit earlier with those 5 or those 3 males, you can see that he just doesn't have that attitude. He just doesn't have that, firstly that size, and secondly just that killer attitude. Now they are moving off through this very thick bush. I might lose them for a bit, but it does open. No, it doesn't open up here for us. We're going to have to go around this thicket. We might lose them for a bit, but I will try and stick with them as much as what I can, I promise. And it's going to be interesting for me to see how far away from these Birminghams they actually lie up for the day, or if they just carry on walking through the heat of the day and create as much distance as they can. I just want to get onto the other side of this worry thicket. Watch yourself here, Brian. They'll probably come out somewhere close to Inga's house, or onto quarantine. Copy that. They're just entering the seep line, just near the crest at the moment. Sorry about the radio traffic, everybody. It's as you can imagine, with a sighting like this after what's happened today, everybody's wanting to come and have a look. And we've been so fortunate that we've actually been with these cats almost the entire time, and also in having these very maneuverable vehicles that we have, we've been able to stick with them when they've been moving. And so unfortunately I have had the task of keeping everyone updated on the radio, but it's not too bad. Just means my attention's divided sometimes. Watch it, Ariel. Okay, so this is the thicket that they were walking through. Just get onto the other side of this thicket, and then we'll take it from there. There, I've got them now. They're in that thicket, just off to my right hand side. So we've got only 2 minutes left for our regular viewers, and for those of you that have to leave after this, we are saying sorry. We are going to go over time a little bit, but it's just while myself and Jamie are busy tracking. Jamie's with the Birmingham boys and we with the Nkuhumas. It's coming to the end of our broadcast, but the nice thing is we're going to be here, keep it going, and if you join in for the sunset safari, see, we just park here. If you join in for the sunset safari, we should have an update on what's happened with these lions. They're now moving north. They've stopped moving west. They're moving north, and they're still moving away from the carcass. Because these animals are now moving north towards the access road to Inga's. They'll come out just below the seaplan. Let's carry on going. So Jamie's in very, very thick bush with the Birmingham boys that I'm hearing at the moment coming through on the radio, which is a good thing. They are also moving away from the buffalo carcass, which is bizarre, but that's the way it is, I suppose. Have a look at the lions there in the distance. So we've got the Birmingham boys moving south away from a buffalo carcass, we've got the Nkuhumas moving north away from a buffalo carcass, and we've got the vultures that probably think that all the lions in this area have gone stark raving mad and giving them some presents. So we're quickly gonna, she's at that buffalo carcass right now, and I'm sure she wants to show you what's going on over there. We'll see you in a bit.
So guys, just a quick show of what is happening at this buffalo carcass. I did have a very, very brief visual of one of the Birmingham boys, but they're now moving south away from the Nkuhumas. But have a look at what all that is left of this buffalo. The end of quite an interesting story. No lions feeding on the carcass anymore, just the vultures, and the lions moving off in opposite directions away from each other. So, very, very cool images and noises. The vultures have been probably the winners of this particular conflict. They've got the carcass all to themselves, and they are fighting amongst each other. So we're going to send you back across to Steph for now. I'm going to try and catch up with the Birmingham boys, and we'll be back with you later.
Oh, welcome back to us. And these lions have now made their way not west anymore, they're going north away from their buffalo carcass. They're actually walking straight towards Nkuhuma Dam, and I've got every expectation that they're going to be drinking at the dam in a little bit, at least from the pan near the dam. And what an exciting morning. It's really been a very dynamic morning. Things started to happen on the things started last night actually with yesterday afternoon with lions drinking at the dam. That resulted in us finding a buffalo carcass with Nkuhumas on this morning. And then through the radio ether, we started to hear that the Birmingham boys had managed to bump into the Styx lionesses and have actually killed 2 or 3 of their, well, 1 or 2 of their cubs definitely, possibly a third. And next thing we know, that the Birmingham boys are on Nkuhuma's property, they coming towards the buffalo carcass with the Nkuhumas. What followed then is one of the Birmingham boys, one of the 3, ran into the Nkuhumas, who just moved off a little bit and watched him watching the buffalo carcass. They then decided to move off. The Birmingham boys then joined up, back all three of them together, and have moved south away from the buffalo carcass, leaving the carcass to the vultures. And now these lions are lying up within sight of Nkuhuma camp, and are probably just going to spend the rest of the day in the shade over here digesting their buffalo breakfast and dinner. So an absolutely weird morning, some of it textbook, some of it not, and definitely a learning for me. At this point I am still unsure of why Junior didn't run for his life. And why these cats just seem pretty much unfazed by the presence of these Birmingham boys. It's amazing. So we're quickly going to go back to Jamie. She's managed to relocate those Birmingham boys after a bumpy ride. We'll see you in a bit.
So guys, quite a dramatic turn of events in this area. We've still got one of the young Birmingham boys. He doesn't look like the largest one. I did briefly see a second, but he was moving off into quite thick bush, obviously looking for some shade. So I think that these guys have been fairly, very active the last night and this morning, and they're obviously quite exhausted. They were too exhausted to even try and fight those vultures for what was left of that carcass. They are just cooling down to get across to this carcass and see how these two prides have interacted. And very clearly, judging from the Nkuhumas' behavior, they are not going to stick around while the Birminghams have got this carcass. And I definitely think you can see how heavily he's panting. I think he is fairly tired, and it's going to be the end of their activity. So guys, it's been a really exciting sunrise safari, and also a very sad story about those death of those two Styx cubs. It does seem as though one of them has survived. I did hear that as I was racing my way over here, and they've moved off further south away from the Birmingham boys. So there's lots and lots of people trying to get into the sighting, and it does seem to be slowing down. These lions are relaxing now. So I think it is time that we say goodbye to them for now, and obviously we will definitely be following up on this story for the sunset safari. So as always, big thank you to all of you for joining us and sharing in this momentous moment in this sort of lion dynamics. And a big thank you to Andrew for not only his fantastic camera work, but also surviving what was quite a mad dash down into this drainage line to see these Birmingham boys. So he's done a fantastic job of being able to bring you all of these amazing visuals. Okay guys, I'm going to pass you back across to Steph. I'm going to say goodbye for now. Thank you for joining us on the sunrise safari, and we will see you later for the sunset safari. Cheers for now.
Alrighty, so now we have the Nkuhumas on their way through the Nkuhuma watering hole. For those of you who have to leave us soon, you are probably going to be able to see these lions come down to drink on the Nkuhuma waterhole cam. So even though we won't be able to bring you the show for much longer, you'll definitely be able to follow these lions on the Nkuhuma watering hole cam. They are busy approaching the water right now. In actual fact, they'll be there in the next minute or so. And once again, just what an awesome morning. I must say my shoulders are nice and loose after all the steering wheel turning. So nice workout for me this morning. Like I said a little bit earlier, some interesting things. Some of it quite textbook and things that I've seen and read about before. Woo, these flowers, man. And some of it not. Some of it quite unusual behavior that I haven't seen in lions before. So nice to know that we're still all learning and that they still have the ability to surprise us, and it keeps that fire, that passion going. So definitely keep a lookout on the camp. We will keep an eye on these lions for the rest of the day, and we'll definitely catch up this afternoon on the sunset safari.